Hello there, this is Welsh ASMR 82. Hey, how are you doing? So, as promised, we're going to take a look at the recent playoff results in the Champions League, Europa League and Conference League, and also check out the draw for the round of 16, and I'll give my predictions of how I think things will work out. We also know the brackets at this point as well, so I'll also start to give you a little bit of an early prediction of who I think could reach the final. Okay, let's check all of that out then. We've got a lot to get through today. Okay, so the recent results were as follows. The playoffs being in February. So Galatasaray obviously thumped Juventus in Istanbul. Very great, absolutely probably one of the best results ever after winning the UEFA Cup against Arsenal, I think. Juventus obviously such a big historic club. That's a very big result, one to be proud of. So Galatasaray 5, Juve 2, goal scorers 2 for Koopmeiners, but then Sara 2 for Lang, Sanchez and Bui with the goals. The very controversial game, of course, Real Madrid 1, Benfica 0, we spoke about that already. Monaco 3-2, Dortmund 2-0, and then Karabakh losing 6-1 at home to Newcastle, Bodo Glimt hammering Inter in Norway surprisingly, and then Club Brugge Atletico 3-0, Olympiacos 0, Leverkusen 2, so the return legs then. Atleti won quite easily actually with a hat-trick from Sørloth and another goal from Cardoso, so 4-1, the only goal coming from Ordóñez for Club Brugge, so unfortunate for the Belgians that they are out of the competition at this point. Bit of a shame for them. But well done to Atletico Madrid. Leverkusen only needed to draw, that they could have actually lost 1-0. So they had a very, how can I say this, effective result against Olympiacos. They didn't allow any goals to be conceded over 2 legs. Again, shame for Olympiacos. I hope they could go a little further in the competition. One team that has shocked us all, of course, is Bodo Glimt, who then not only did they beat Inter in Norway on that, plastic pitch in the weather conditions, blah blah blah, but then they actually went to San Siro and backed it up. Obviously, I think I'm not the only one here saying that Bodo Glimt are probably my second favourite team in this competition at the minute. Disappointed for Inter, disappointed for Italian football, disappointed for the Italian coefficiency and definitely not getting an extra spot in the Champions League next year now. But obviously it doesn't matter because this little team from Norway that didn't even win the most recent championship, they're in their off-season, so they're actually in their summer holidays, respectively. They're starting back soon, but they actually came second in their league. I think Molde might have beaten them, so they're not even the best team in Norway at the moment, and they went to San Siro, and that second goal was absolutely spectacular. So 2-1 winners, Bastoni with the only goal for Inter, Hauge and Evian, and this is an Inter team, of course, that is romping to the title in Serie A. They're like 10 points ahead of city rivals AC Milan, ahead of the derby this weekend. So they could be 13 points ahead by the end of the weekend, and they lost at home to little old Norway, a country that's never made it this far in the competition before, so congrats to them. And they played some beautiful stuff as well. And then a little bit complacent from Newcastle, but a 3-2 win over a plucky Karabakh team, Tonali, Joelinton, Botman, and then Duran and Jafar Kuliev with the goals for Karabakh. It was quite an easy draw for Newcastle, so they are excited about the next step. Atalanta, what a game. This was incredible. So of course Dortmund were winning quite easily from the first leg, 2-0, and Atalanta scored in the 5th minute with Scamacca, Zappacosta, lots of ex-Premier League players here, Pasalic and Samardzic with the last kick of the game, a penalty. I don't dispute the penalty, I think it was fair, plus a beautiful goal from Adeyemi when he came off the bench. Totally end-to-end. Atalanta could have scored even more. Another what-if year from Dortmund, unfortunately, but Atalanta saving Italy's blushes, I would say, because we're on the point of being in a last 16 with no Italian team, and Atalanta have saved what's considered to be one of the top 3, perhaps top 4 leagues in Europe, and therefore probably right up there in the world as well. So that would have been very disappointing for Italian football because, of course, despite an outrageously good comeback from Juventus, coming 3-3 in extra time with 10 men, they'd given everything, and actually their home fans applauded the goals actually by Galatasaray in the end. Applauded their team because their team were obviously crushed in extra time, conceding 2 goals, but the stadium kind of stood up, applauded them for their efforts. They made it that far after messing up the first leg, but 2 red cards in 2 games. The locals must be quite disappointed overall, but actually on the night they couldn't be too disappointed because the team gave literally everything. They just squeaked through, and as it says there, Spalletti side tonight, incredible Champions League comeback. It nearly happened for them. So therefore just Atalanta through. Monaco couldn't do it. 5-4 loss against Paris Saint-Germain. Marquinhos. Actually they were winning at Cluj with the goal. Then Kvara scored a 66th minute, and then Teze on the 91st, but it was too late with 10 men. So they just make it through. And of course, this game was super entertaining, but after Rafa Silva put Benfica ahead, Tchouameni literally ran to the other end and scored. And then Vinicius scoring, they didn't need an extra goal, but good for him to score the winner. Obviously, my opinion on him hasn't changed since the last video. Still is kind of infuriating as a player, but doesn't deserve to be treated or singled out for the colour of his skin, obviously. So in that respect, I'm quite happy that he scored. So 2-1 winners for Real Madrid, but they just squeezed through this match, and they've lost their last 2 league games, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the upcoming fixtures. So let's do that. Galatasaray Liverpool. They have already beaten Liverpool, of course, in this competition this year. I don't think they'll do it again, but Liverpool did just lose to Wolves on the weekend, so it's not impossible. Oh, not on the weekend, on the midweek actually. So Galatasaray are up against a side that they're not playing their best football, so I think there's a chance. Atalanta against Bayern, I really rate this Bayern team. I don't see many teams getting past them. We'll take a look at the draw in a second and I'll explain what I think about them, but I think that Atalanta have probably made it as far as they're going to. Atleti against Tottenham, you've got to think Atleti. I know Tottenham have done a lot better in this competition than they have in the Premier League, but they are in big trouble in the Premier League, so I think Atleti will probably get through that one. And then Newcastle, Barcelona, them two, to be honest. I think Newcastle are doing quite poorly in the Premier League, and Barcelona top of La Liga at the second, so I think Barcelona will go through. And then Arsenal-Leverkusen, I think Arsenal will win that one. Leverkusen won't be easy, but I just don't see them having the firepower and the resilience to beat Arsenal. Glimt Sporting, this is a great opportunity for both teams. Sporting are an excellent team, doing well in their own league, doing brilliantly. Of course, automatic qualifiers from the group stage of this competition. So Glimt can beat Sporting, but also Sporting will be happy with Glimt compared to, say, Paris Saint-Germain, for example, or Real Madrid. I think it's 50-50 between those two. Maybe I'm going for Sporting, but good luck to Bodo Glimt as well. Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea seem to face each other a lot at the moment. I'm not sure about this one. I think they're both as good as each other. They're very equal. I think it's absolutely 50-50. At the moment, I would not say that Paris Saint-Germain are doing as well as last year. So, for that reason, I think Chelsea have got a very good chance. And lastly, Real Madrid against Man City. No offence, but unless they can... What date is this? 11th of March. Unless they get loads of players back from injury in that time, I think Man City are going to walk over them. They are on the bones. They've got barely enough players on the bench. There's no Bellingham. Rodrigo's out for like a year. They've got so many players out injured. It's half a team at the second, maybe even less than half a team. They've got loads of youngsters and goalkeepers on the bench. So they limped through the last round. I do not see them taking on Man City at the moment with the current injuries that they've got in their squad. So I think that's Man City's to take. Okay, so if we take a look then at the round of 16, we will see that Paris Saint-Germain Chelsea take on the winner of Galatasaray Liverpool. So I think whoever wins that one will also win that one as well. So if it's Chelsea or Paris Saint-Germain, I think they'll get to that point. And then Man City, Real, I'm setting Man City, Bayern Munich. I think Bayern Munich will actually beat Man City at the moment. And then Paris Saint-Germain or Chelsea against Bayern, whoever, you know, I was predicting one of those teams was going to be in the final anyway. But for me, based on the form that they've got in their own league, it's Bayern. And then down here, Barcelona, Newcastle, so Barcelona, I said, Atleti, I can see Barcelona beating Atleti. Well, 50-50 between these two. Let's say Sporting, for, you know, argument's sake. Arsenal will beat Sporting. Arsenal will hammer Barcelona. That high line will get a complete battering from Arsenal. And Arsenal will reach the final, and in my opinion against Bayern Munich, and that will be amazing because they're both fantastic teams, and I do think that Bayern is one of the teams that can do something against Arsenal, but otherwise I think it's Arsenal's this year if they play their cards right. If they get Paris Saint-Germain or Chelsea, they've got maybe a slightly better chance, but I think it'll be up against Bayern and it will be 50-50 in the final. It'll be a fascinating one. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section. Let's do the same for the Europa League and the Conference League. I'll go a little quicker this time. So we saw the playoffs. And the second leg of the playoffs were Ferencváros beating Ludogorets 2-0, Lille beating Red Star Crvena Zvezda 2-0. Stuttgart, despite losing at home to Celtic, 1-0 from McGowan, who scored immediately. It was just too big a deficit for Celtic to catch. I wanted both of these teams to go through. I like them both, but the Greeks, Panathinaikos, beat Victoria Pilsen, who are a very resilient team and always do well in this competition. 1-1 on penalties they won. Bologna put out Brann, who were another team from Norway that performed excellently, only lost 2-0 overall. Celta Vigo, who are doing really well in this competition, and they're starting to catch my eye because they're doing well in La Liga as well. They put out PAOK, 1-0 on the night. 3-3 between Dinamo Zagreb and Genk was enough to get Genk through because of the 3-1 victory out in Zagreb. And then Forest losing at home, but it's enough to put Fenerbahce out on the night. It was 2-1 goals from Hudson-Odoi, but Atakolu with 2 goals for the Turkish team. So then the fixtures are all Italian, not good for the Italian coefficiency, like I said. Bologna against Roma. I think as a Roma fan I'm quite happy with that one. I think Bologna have beaten us quite a few times in the last few years, but we are really good in Europe. I can see us winning in that competition. I think we have to be considered as one of the favourites now. Aston Villa, Lille. Aston Villa having a wobbly, but I think that Lille are having an even bigger wobbly, and Giroud isn't scoring as far as I've heard. So Aston Villa to go through. Panathinaikos, Real Betis. I think Betis are doing brilliantly in La Liga at the minute. Panathinaikos, excellent team. I think Betis will edge it. Stuttgart against Porto. Porto really have to be considered one of the favourites in this competition. They're doing fantastically in their domestic league. Stuttgart are having a brilliant season as well, so let's not count them out. They are in the Champions League spots at the minute in Germany. I think I just take Porto though. Celta Vigo, Lyon. I think Celta Vigo for me is a big match. Lyon are one of the harder teams they could have picked, or could have been drawn with, but I think Celta Vigo are starting to really get into their stride this season. Ferencváros, Braga. I don't know, it's 50-50 this one. Maybe Braga, but don't consider Ferencváros an easy team at all. Genk against Freiburg. They're both underperforming a little bit in their league, if I'm thinking of Genk correctly, is it? Or I do get them mixed up with Gent a lot. No, they are 6th in their league, and then Freiburg are 8th. Yeah, so it's 50-50 to be honest. I think maybe Freiburg, but only maybe. And then Nottingham Forest against Midtjylland. You know, Nottingham Forest might have run out of lives. They're really fighting relegation. I think they need to focus on that. I think this could be Midtjylland's to lose, to be honest. They're a really good team. They finished extremely high up in the table, of course, 3rd. So they need to be taken seriously and respected. I think they could win that one. So if we do the same thing then, so if I say, what did I say, Braga and Betis, I think Betis will win that, so they will get to the semis. Freiburg just, Celta Vigo just. I think Celta Vigo would win that. I think Real Betis would beat Celta Vigo at the moment, so we'll have a final with Real Betis again. After they got to the, which was it, the Conference League, they got to the final of last year. Then I said Porto, Midtjylland, so Porto would win that. Roma, Aston Villa, I think Roma would win that. Roma against Porto, we've already played and we beat them. So Roma to the final to take on Real Betis, 2 losing finalists of the last couple of years in European competitions. It's all to play for, isn't it? But at least, well, I was going to say something about Sevilla, because obviously Roma lost this competition a couple of years back to Real Betis' sworn enemy, Sevilla. So, yeah, maybe we'll lose to the other team in Seville this year. I'm hoping Roma can win it, and obviously it's a backup just in case we miss out on the top 4 in the league to try and finally get back into the Champions League where we need to be. Let me know if you agree with me in the comment section. And same thing then for the Conference League. Fiorentina lost but got through against Polish, currently top of the Polish league, Jagiellonia Białystok, on goal difference over 2 other teams. Celje of Slovenia beating Drita 2-3-2, good for them. It's good to see a Slovenian team doing well in this competition. Rijeka beating Omonia Nicosia 3-1, so the champions, I think they were, weren't they, of Croatia are through. Samsunspor beating Skandia 4-0. Alkmaar beating FC Noah 4-0 as well. Crystal Palace beating a very stubborn Zrinjski Mostar team from Bosnia 2-0. Sigma Olomouc beating Lausanne 2-1 on the night and getting through, and then Lech Poznań 1-0 winners against Kups of Finland. So that leaves us with the following draw. Alkmaar against Sparta Prague. That's quite even. Could really be either team there. Lech against Shakhtar, equally, both very good teams. Rijeka against Strasbourg. I think Strasbourg will probably win that one. Samsunspor against Rayo Vallecano. Rayo, aren't doing that well, are they? They're 12th. They're in a good run, actually. Maybe Rayo, but Samsunspor could do it. Crystal Palace against Larnaca, excuse me. I think Crystal Palace should get through. Fiorentina against Rakov Częstochowa. I don't know with Fiorentina at the minute because they're fighting relegation in Serie A. Rakov might win that one. Celje against AEK Athens. I think AEK Athens to win that. And Sigma Olomouc against Mainz. I think Mainz will win that. So if let's pick one. I think Lech have got more credentials in this competition. So Lech to go through, Alkmaar to go through. Crikey, who would win on that one? You know, we could get Lech in the semi-final. Probably be Alkmaar, but it could be Lech. Crystal Palace to win, Rakov to win, Crystal Palace in the semi-final then. I think Crystal Palace in that situation would go to the final. And then, what did I say? Rayo Vallecano, AEK Athens. I think AEK Athens would win that one. Mainz, Strasbourg. I think Strasbourg would win that one. Strasbourg against AEK Athens. Maybe Strasbourg would get to the final. Strasbourg against Crystal Palace. That's a tricky one to call. It depends what form Crystal Palace are in at the end of the season. They have got a lot of pedigree in finals. You know, they won the FA Cup. They won the trophy at the beginning of the year, the Shield. Strasbourg are... Where are they in the league? They're not in the top 6, I don't think. They're in 8th, but they lost, draw, win, draw. It's not great. But then Crystal Palace, not great either. They're struggling too. But they've got an excellent squad, so who knows? We could see a real shock. You know, we could genuinely have Lech Poznan in the final, Shakhtar in the final, Alkmaar in the final, Sparta Prague in the final. Fiorentina might get to another final. I could see Mainz getting to the final, AEK Athens getting to the final. Yeah, there's loads of teams. They're all so evenly matched in this competition. So I'm saying Crystal Palace, but genuinely, I've got absolutely no idea who's going to win this competition. So many equal teams. This is why I love this particular competition. It gives an opportunity to, you know, lower leagues and lesser known teams to get a European trophy, which I think is just wonderful from a fan's perspective. Okay, let me know if you agree with my comments with your own comment. Subscribe there if you're new to the channel for more videos like this in the future, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. And you can join me on Patreon as well to support the channel. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you very soon.